Hi, everyone. Fran here. My interview on Hopenning this week is with Lili Myers. Lili was married to a very beloved TV personality named Dave Myers, part of the Harry Bikers team. Dave sadly passed away from cancer 2 years ago, but his time on British TV, which was 2 decades, helped solidify him as one of the most beloved TV characters in Britain. This love was shown for him on the first Dave Day, where almost 50,000 bikers came out to celebrate Dave and his life. Lili and I talk about Dave, their life together, and how she is moving through her grief by helping others. I hope you stay with me. Welcome to the Hopenning. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hopenning. This is the place where hope is happening. And it's a privilege and an honor to have Lili Myers on with me today. This is the second time that I've been able to introduce and interview Lili Myers, and a lot has happened to change from 2021 when we first interviewed you to now. But welcome, Lili. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Fran, for having me, and thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to this wonderful podcast. I'm here the second time, and as you said, these past years have been quite a change for me, not only for me, for the whole world, but yes. In these past 4 or 5 years, I went through quite a bit. Yeah.
It's about your book, right? Dave and Me, that came out, I think it came out a year and a half ago or so.
It was a year ago. The story is I was born in Romania and I had education in Romania, in communist Romania. And my first marriage was in Romania. I had two children that at the age of 11 and 17, I took with me to Britain. I followed a man that I loved, and we started another life, a different life in Britain. The man that I fell in love with, he was a TV presenter. I didn't know at the time, so I had no idea when we met. He was just starting his career as a TV presenter, and yeah, I ended up being married to somebody who was famous in Britain. I ended up supporting him. I ended up being the person behind, being they say that behind every big man stands a woman. Well, yeah, I was behind him, but mostly beside him. He loved to say that you are beside me, you're not behind me. And we had a fantastic time together. He was larger than life, childish. He loved life. He loved adventure. He loved making every moment very special. And he taught me how to be free. Coming from a communist education and regime and having very limited choices, David opened my life. David opened my views. He gave me a different perspective of life. I learned to live life with joy and with freedom because of him. Sadly, in 2022, he was diagnosed with a very aggressive form of cancer. For a couple of years, he went through brutal medication and chemo, and with really bad side effects, and we had a really hard time. And I lost him in 2024 in February. Since then, yeah, I put my words and my thoughts and my struggles in a book called Dave and Me. It's not only a book about him and about our relationship. I wanted it to be a little bit more than that. I wanted it to be hope. That's why I'm on Hopenning with you, because the book is about hope, the hope of life. And I wanted to portray Dave's zest for life and the fact that life is for living. And I wanted to carry on with his beautiful energy.
Mhm. Well, the book really does that. Like Dave and Me, I had no idea when I interviewed you in 2021 that you were the wife of a celebrity as big as Dave. I had no idea because I live in Canada and on the west side of Canada, and you live in England. You live in Burton-on-Trent now. You and Dave did a bunch of hopping around. You lived in a few different places, even in France for a while. I had no idea the scope of how big the hairy bikers were. But after reading this book and the first Dave Day that you had and seeing how loved Dave was in the UK, I was shocked, Lili, because you never presented yourself as someone who really, you and your husband were world famous. You are world famous.
Thank you for for your words. What David represented and what he was famous in British culture. It was the love for food, the love for travel, the friendship that he and his on-screen partner had together, the adventures that they did together. They showed the public that two normal people can have a beautiful friendship and can have these adventures across the world and fulfill dreams. And it's beautiful. They related to so many people by food, people related to them from coming towards them from different angles. Love for food, love for travel, love for. Dave used to be a makeup artist beforehand, before being in front of the camera. He was behind the camera. So he was the one who made people beautiful. He was the one who made up celebrities, singers. He used to work with Stephanie Beacham, which is a famous American actress. He used to work with Roger Moore. I have at home, it's a very, very beautiful picture of Roger Moore, and underneath is written, "Thank you, Dave, for making my face up. I hope we can repeat the experience." He wasn't a stranger to this world of celebrity. It was just that one day, him and his friend decided that they needed to do something. The hours were very long in the job that they were doing. The money became less and less. And they just decided to do something that was different. And they had this idea. At the time, Dave had a microlight, and they did a very short film. They had a budget of about £1,000. Him flying his microlight and his friend digging for cockles on the beach and waiting, cooking for Dave when he came home in his microlight. But the problem was the beach was all dug up, so Dave could not land his microlight. And it became something very funny. And I think that some producers saw the funny side of the interaction between the two of them, and that's how they were commissioned the very first. It was 1 hour in Portugal. And that's about when we met, because after that, they were commissioned a series. And as part of the series, they filmed in Romania, where I'm from. And There's no coincidences in this world, there's serendipities. And they stayed in the hotel that at that time I was managing. So that's how we met. And whenever somebody asks me, how did you end up living in Britain? I always say, well, I followed the man on a bike, which is practically true.
It is true, right? And you followed him on that bike for 2 decades. You were behind him very, very often, and he was in front. And he was driving, but you were, like you said before, behind every giant of a man is a woman. And you did follow him. So your upbringing in communist Romania was very different than Dave's upbringing in the UK. And you mentioned this in the book about how he was raised, the illness of his mom, and how his dad and Dave ended up being caregivers for his mother who had MS for many, many years. And that changed him too. It made him so caring and kind and gentle and being able to reach out to common people. Because Lili, your background was so different than his. He had come from the world of makeup artistry, big television and movie hits. So if I were to ask you, Lili, what your high school was like when you were growing up in Romania and what your closest high school friends would have said about you, how would they have described you?
Um, I was a little bit of a rebel even then. I got in trouble, but not for, as you would call them now, major things. We didn't have drugs. We had no idea what drugs were at that time. We didn't have access to alcohol either, being underage. And the biggest thing that I could do when I was in high school was cut my uniform. Everybody had to wear a uniform, and the uniform had to be standard, had to be the length to cover the calves and all of that. And I cut it because I thought, well, why not? It's too long for me. I don't like it, so I cut it, and I got in trouble for that. So I was one of those who did things a little bit different or saw things a little bit different. Although everybody was supposed to see the same things, do the same things, buy the same things, spend money in the same way, work in the same places. Everything was owned by the state. So we were raised like little robots. Whoever had the audacity to be different was punished. So you have to be within the limits to conform with the crowd, and that was it. Do the rules. And I think, yeah, my classmates would say that I was a little bit of a rebel. I was the one who knitted and made my own clothes just to have them different than others. And then I would have my colleagues coming to me to make them clothes. Yeah, the biggest trouble I got into, it wasn't a trouble. It was probably the biggest adventure that we did as a group when we were in high school. The party when we finished high school, and everybody was dancing and having a good time to celebrate that we finished school. And we were a group of five, and we went in the cemetery with a bottle of champagne, and it was a loaf of bread and a piece of salami. And I tell you, salami was very rare. So these three things, five friends, we went in the cemetery and got into the spire of the church, and we were there and partying there till dawn. So we saw the sunrise doing that, just being children and enjoying our, the company and having fun. So that was probably the biggest adventure that I had at that age.
But everything that you said, the having fun part, simple fun, right? The salami and the bread and the champagne, a little bit of adventure, a little bit of naughtiness. That was Dave, right? That was your husband, the hairy biker Dave. that's what he liked to do. He liked to have adventure, have fun, be a little bit on the edge, but not, enough to get into trouble, but just be a little bit on the edge and do things differently. The way that you've described Dave, he would have been an amazing person to know. And you knew him intimately. You and Dave were married 20 years, right?
We were together 20 years, married 2011. Um, and that's another story. We were not insecure, so it wasn't that we needed to get married. It wasn't at all that. It was just the fact that at the time we were renovating a house, and for some reason, moving utilities from one house to another, nobody was listening to me because I wasn't the wife. And he was always away. He was always working away, filming away. And when he came home next, I just said, I'm fed up. We're getting married because I couldn't speak to the gas provider, the electricity provider to change the telephone from one house to another. I'm fed up. I want to be the one who can do these things without you. So we're getting married. And he went into panic mode. The man didn't like at all surprises, so he went into panic mode and he said, "Woo, call the agent, call the agent." And I had to call the agent, book the date, yeah, and have a wedding. So that's how it was. Just a paper for us. It wasn't anything important, but that paper gave me the power to, to do things in his absence.
And when you talk about Dave in the book, you mention little things. You mention as you're going through his items, each chapter basically is about one item from your life together. There's the shirt that you pull out, and then his wallet, and then the wedding ring, and the bookcase, and the menu. So I love how you've done that in the book. You've built a chapter and described the chapter around a certain item as you're grieving. So let's talk a little bit about the book. So why did you choose to write the book in that way, where each chapter is built around one item?
When I started with the book, I needed to put my thoughts down. Going back, when you're going through grief, you don't know where to start. Everything is thrown at you and you feel so overwhelmed. You're under so many things that are entangled. You don't know how to get out of there. You don't know how to see the light. And there's so many feelings as well. It's like a knot in your heart that's weighing you down, and you can't make sense of it. The way I made sense of that pain and that turmoil was by picking it at it, taking one thing at a time, taking the anger out of it, taking the fear out of it, taking the loneliness out of it, taking the sorrow out of it, just picking at, and it became gradually, it became lighter and it became clearer and it became easier to carry. How I started it, I was walking Teddy, my dog, one morning. My head was all full of, I couldn't sleep the night before and I was really tired. But going out with Teddy and being out in nature and in the sun, it just gives you a little bit of energy. When I walk back home, at the bottom of my stairs, I found, and I live in a place that's quite secluded. There's no footpath there, nobody comes there, there's nobody walks dogs there, it's just me. And at the bottom of my stairs, I found this silver medallion and I just froze when I read the inscription. It was something like this: if I had my life to live all over again, I would find you sooner to leave you longer. And that was a sign. I took it as a sign. Um, we do want to believe that there are connections, that the others are communicating with us, that we're not just left on our own to drift, that they guide us, that they are there, and they send a sign and make connection with us. And I interpreted that as a connection, and I am sure that in his heart and in inside he felt that every second of his life, that we always said it would have been so much better if we met earlier so that we had longer time together. And I that just landed on my stairs. There's no explanation for that, so I still see it as a sign from him. And I went home, and I just started to write whatever was coming in my head. And that was the start of my book. I wrote a chapter about that, and I wrote my feelings about that, and my crying, of course, because a message like that, it just softens you. Just it's yeah yeah, it's really yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it brings tears now when I think of it. Then, of course, when somebody dies, there's that process of clearing the stuff, clearing the plate, because you have to deal with the banks, you have to deal with the death certificates, you have to deal with mortgages, you have to deal with suppliers, with everything has to be cleared of their name and brought into your name. So it's clearing their life. It's like wiping their traces in this world, and it's so frustrating and it's so painful knowing that this person was larger than life and I had to do that. That was frustrating and that was painful, and I needed to talk about that as well. Then clearing the stuff, his wardrobe, clearing his drawers, and that shirt, the plaid shirt, is still in the bedroom. It's hanging on the door in the bedroom, and I haven't touched it. It's there. And it was the story with that shirt. When I first visited him in Britain, it was a cold March, and he lent me one of his shirts to wear at night because I didn't know it would be so cold in Britain. And he gave me one of his shirts, and I left it on the door in the bedroom that I used when I was visiting. And after I left, he kept telling me on the phone, the shirt is still there, the shirt is waiting for you to come back. And now there's a shirt, his shirt, on the door, waiting for him to come back. But well, it's
yeah,
just it's just there. It's his presence.
yeah.
It's his presence, and it's comforting. I touch it at times, and it's just comforting because it was on him. It hugged his body, and it's comforting.
Talk about how, with all the bank accounts and the utilities and the mortgages and the car registration and all of that, where their names are erased, bureaucracy, and yet things like keeping the shirt in that
Mm.
spot where it was hung keeps you knowing that they lived, they were alive, they were important, not only to you, but to others. And it's this sense of concrete, something you can actually feel and touch and smell. That is a reminder. Yes, they lived. Yes, their life was important. The scorpions. Tell us about the scorpions and why the scorpions were so important to you.
Um, well, being Eastern European and having the Eastern Wall falling down in the late 89 and 90, and the Scorpions had the song with Wind of Change. It was very in vogue and kind of led my generation to have freedom of speech 1990. That was the year when we realized that we have a voice and we can speak and we can do things differently. That was the year when we finally found out how other people lived, because beforehand we didn't have information about the Western world. It was all censored, so whatever we heard on the news was bad about the Western world. But in 1990, we opened our eyes, we opened our ears, we opened our perspectives, and we understood that life can be lived different. And the wind of change, the Scorpions, it was very well known, and my generation loved it. And when I moved in with Dave, he asked, "So what's your favorite music?" And I said, "Well, I do love the Scorpions." And he bought every album possible, whatever he could find, just to please me. And he listened to everything. And whenever we were traveling somewhere, he would put the music in the car and we would listen together. And we made it a mission whenever they were touring in Europe to go and see them. So we had this beautiful escapades, one day escapade to see them in Paris, in Geneva, to see them in Hamburg, in Munich, in Frankfurt. So we traveled along to see the boys. And the very first concert we went to, we were right in front of the stage, and Rudi Schenke, who is the guitarist, and he's a god. He's really in his 70s, but he looks really good. And he was, playing his guitar and flicked his pectorum in the audience. And of course, I found it. And Dave said he was so proud of it. He would show it to everybody, saying, "I know she's the one." I know it. Yeah, it so happened that later on we met the band, and then they invited us to go to Moscow to see them in a concert in Moscow, and we did. So, and I tell you, the Russians are mad about the Scorpions. They were gods in Russia. And we had such a great time. It was a cold November, and I think we were very lucky to be able to go when we went, because now things are a little bit more difficult. But yes, we did see Moscow. We saw St. Petersburg, because after Moscow, we followed them and we saw them again in St. Petersburg. So that's the story with the Scorpions and the plectrum in Dave's wallet.
They were the first song that you danced to at your wedding as well, right?
Yeah, believe it or not, Rock You Like a Hurricane. That was our first song. And by God, our life together was like a hurricane. It was like that, like fast lane all the way through.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful adventures. In all the years that we lived together, I never ate the same meal twice. He was a fantastic cook, and of course, with the shows that they did across the world, they traveled on motorbikes, finding special places in the world, talking about food, studying the local food, cooking the local food as well, interacting with the locals, and finding things, new things, and beautiful things about the culture. So they were very good ambassadors, British ambassadors around the world, but also picking up elements from cultures and bringing them back in the country. And whenever he came home with so much enthusiasm about Lil. He called me Lil. I saw this and I saw that and I ate this. Oh, and guess what? The Nubians, they sacrificed a goat in front of me. And of course, he was in a white suit. And of course, he was all splattered with blood from the goat. And he was all enthusiastic because he'd never seen anything like that before. So all these tales and stories from around the world, actually, that's how he conquered me. after they visited my country, after they filmed in my country and they stayed in the hotel that I was running, we stayed in touch by email, and it was the early ages of emails back then. And this series that they filmed then took them to India, to Mexico, to Argentina, to Turkey. So he was writing me these very beautiful emails from these very exotic countries that I only imagined traveling to. And he was describing the food, he was describing the local color, the smells, the culture, the people, the beautiful people that he met. With so much, he was embracing whatever he saw beautiful in humanity. And he was just charming in the way that he was talking about it, charming to the level of making me tearful when I read his emails. And that's how we got close. Long distance relationship. Yeah, so that he carried on all his active life doing that. All these years of traveling across the world. And he
So,
came home with these recipes, fantastic recipes, and I was a guinea pig. And he would just come home in the kitchen, and I would cook something for him when he arrived to have a meal when he arrived. But then that was the moment when he took over the kitchen. So from that moment on, I was just a spectator, and he would just, whenever he was cooking, he would just say, "My darling, here's a glass of wine and a petit four for you. Just sit here with me and watch me and talk to me." And I was watching him making or doing magic with ingredients, and every meal was different, with different flavors, different colors, different textures. It was love on a plate.
and you had two children. You had brought your two kids, well,
Yeah.
the daughter over first, and then the son joined you. How did they react to this guy with long hair? And I mean, at the time, he didn't have his little mustache that was
Yeah,
upturned, but hairy, right? Like he's the hairy biker. He's a biker, and he's hairy, and he cooks crazy food. How did your kids react?
Well, to start with, my daughter wouldn't eat his food. She would look at the plate and said, "Bread and butter, please." So she only ate bread and butter for a while. My son went straight into university, so we didn't get to know him very well beforehand. But uh, during the years that followed, he always said, "I don't want to replace your dad. Your dad is your dad. Respect him, but I just want you to know me, and I want us to have a good relationship." You know something? The kids loved him, and the kids communicated with him more than they did with me, because I was the one who laid the rules, and Dave was the one who played with them, who was jolly, and they would call him to have a banter every night, about an hour on the phone with him, and laughter and all that. And whenever there was, "All right, so let's go there, let's do this, let's go in that holiday," and that's when they would say, "Now we have to speak to mom." So that's where I came in.
And
Uh, they had a fantastic relationship. They both considered him dad, and my daughter tattooed his last message for her on her forearm. She was so fond of him, so loving. My son is getting married in September, and I've seen the planning, the table plans, and Dave has his own place on the top table. It was that level of relationship. There was friendship. They had a role model in him. They learned how to look at this world with wonder, with love, with respect. He taught them how to think free, how to not let themselves limited by anything. The world is your oyster, he would say. My son did 2 degrees. The first one was in computing. He did 5 years in computing. And at the end of that, he said, Mom and Dave, I would like to combine that with my love for cars. Immediately, Dave went on internet and he found that there was in Oxford there was this college that did engineering, motorsport engineering. So he booked us on an open day at the university. So the whole family we had a day out. We all went. And my son did a second degree in motorsport engineering just because Dave encouraged him. You go for it. You want it, you go for it. We'll help you. And we did. My daughter just the same. My daughter did a degree in fine arts, and Dave was her model. Uh, Dave, his education actually was Goldsmith, which is an art, a very prestigious art college in London. So he was an artist, and Isa, my daughter, she was inspired by him, so she did fine art. The kids had the best role model in David.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And your parents that were probably raised, their whole childhood would have been during communism, like
Yeah.
intense communism right up until the 1990s. So your mom and dad, I mean, they came from a pretty, the upbringing and the rules and the distrust, right? Distrust was a big, big theme of communism, especially of the West. Don't trust the West. So, how did they react to your relationship with Dave?
They both ended up loving him. At the beginning, it was awkward because my father, never stepped in the kitchen. In the culture that I come from, it's women in the kitchen. It's women who cook, put the set the table, and care for the house, the home, the kids, and all. And my father never had to go in the kitchen, not once. And when he first visited us in England, he saw a man cooking and he was just, "What? Are you serious?" On the contrary, my mom was mesmerized. She would sit in the kitchen and watch Dave cook all day long. She was very happy to watch him cook. My parents didn't understand English at all. Dave did not understand Romanian at all. But they had conversations. And it was so funny listening to their conversations, each in their language. But they said, "Oh, yeah, 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 of course, yeah, yeah." It was lovely. It was lovely to. One was talking about the weather, and the other one was talking about some documents. But they had a really, really meaningful conversation. My mom cooked with Dave a lot. The first lockdown, my mom visited us. The day she was supposed to fly back to Romania was the day when the flight stopped. So she was stuck with us for the first lockdown, and oh, her highlight of the day was being in the kitchen and cooking with Dave. Again, she didn't understand English at all, but that was her, that was her pleasure to be there and put her hands. Many times she would just do this, slap Dave. No, no, that's not good. You don't do it like that. But they had fun together. Well, I have a few recordings of them cooking together, and they're bloody funny.
So, there's a quote in the book, and you're going to have to explain to me what this means because we do not hear this in Canada. It says, look at the blush on those snaggers. I have no idea.
Dave had this language. He invented his own things. Somewhere, somebody compiled a document with the wine liners that he came with. Something like, "As if the angels have pissed in my mouth." Sorry, that was about a bottle of good wine. Yeah, he said that publicly. "It's so good, as if angels pissed in my mouth." He was shaving some cheese on pasta, or grating some cheese on pasta, and he said, "Oh, just look at this! It's like a chiropodist floor." So he used to come with this things that the audience was just enthralled with. It was so innocent, charming, childish things that he just put together. Yeah, it just left you without any reply, anything to say. You were muted. So the snaggers, that's slang for sausages, and yeah, the blush on the sausages.
I could not figure it out. So I had to ask you because it sounds a little risque, actually, the blush on them.
Oh, they had a show once, a live show on a Saturday morning, and as a guest they had meatloaf. Yeah, that was back in time. Yeah, and Dave had this idea of cooking a meatloaf for meatloaf, and he did. He cooked a meatloaf for meatloaf live on TV. This imagination, crazy imagination. He always had something at the back of his mind. I could see whenever I looked at his eyes, I knew that he had a crazy plan. That something is going to come up, something really crazy is going to come up. And he usually did that. He usually came up with something really crazy.
Just the idea of Dave Day. How did the idea of Dave Day come about?
Dave has been on the British telly now for 22 years, more or less, 22 years. He and his colleague and the shows that they made were part of the culture. They had a couple of series every year, one in spring, one in the autumn, and 6 episodes, and there were people were making it, they were waiting for it to happen. They wanted it to happen because there was adventure. They saw the world through their eyes. They tasted the world through their eyes, and it was like two best friends on the TV in their living room. And they felt connection with them. They felt that they were part of their family. And when, of course, when Dave passed, there was bereavement. There was a general state of sadness and loss, feeling of loss. And I had thousands of messages that were sent to me. It was unbelievable. People were so kind and so generous and so considerate. And many of them were asking, how can we pay our respect? How can we express our loss? And it was actually at his funeral that when we had some friends together, and I just said, well, shall we do something? And we have many biker friends. And Woody, one of them, said, yeah, when? Tell me when. So, and one of the messages that I received, and I wish I know the person who did that, said something like, well, Dave was such a jolly person. He was full of life, and he loved life, and it would be very appropriate to say, I'm having a Dave Day when we are having a happy day. So we adopted I'm having a Dave Day, and that was Dave Day that came along, and we decided the date, the 8th of June, and we had a page on Facebook. We opened a page, and we asked people to sign up. If you want to ride, please do sign up. And there were a couple of hundred of people who signed up, and I thought, brilliant, we'll have a really good ride. A few hundred people, motorbikes on the motorway, brilliant. 46,137 motorbikes on the motorways going from London up to Barrow-in-Furness, where Dave was born. It was something unbelievable. The atmosphere that day was amazing. The uh, you couldn't write it, you couldn't express it. Along the motorway, all the bridges across filled with people waving, people singing, people shouting, banners, pictures, Dave's picture. It was like surreal, really surreal. I spoke that day with many, many, many of them, and there were so many emotions that came out. Many of them they joined because they had lost somebody to cancer, or they were going through cancer themselves, or they had somebody in the family going through cancer. Others were just bikers who loved biking and loved the shows. Others were mums who loved cooking, and they related to Dave through cooking. Um, there were people from all walks of life, so different, but coming all together and being united in this wonderful, uplifting event. It was like we were floating. It was surreal, and they received us like hero. We had a hero entrance in the town, and it was amazing, absolutely amazing. People in town, because you can imagine it's a small town, and there weren't enough hotels to host everybody. People in town opened their doors to strangers and fed strangers, uh, kept them overnight safe, and yeah, you couldn't write it. Yeah, it was amazing. We repeated that last year, and we're doing it again this year on the 20th of June.
On the 20th?
This is gonna be the last one
The,
in this
the
format.
last, the last official one or the last one?
It's the last celebration that has this form of a big bike ride. Because there's a lot of red tape, a lot of things that come up. It's safety as well, and I think, and it's a mammoth task to organize something like this.
Right.
Apart from all of that, we managed to raise over £250,000 for charities. We work with NSPCC Childline and a couple of cancer charities. So we help that way as well. And I'm very proud of this, very, very proud of this. Dave is still here with us and he's still doing miracles,
Right.
still doing miracles.
Yeah. Uh, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about that, right? Like the charities and the cancer charities, but there were also for kids charities, right? For children.
Yeah. That is a charity that we have been working for more than 10 years, Dave and I. We're part of a group that, fun enough, we toured Canada quite a bit. Yes. We fly over, rent Harley Davidsons, usually either Alberta or Vancouver, or we've been in different parts of Canada. And we do a ride for 10 days or 14 days. Again, we raise money for NSPCC Childline. Across all these time, these years, we raised close to £1 million. And this is a charity that works with children with crisis. It's a great charity.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about Dave's life and your life together, your life before Dave. What's next for you, Lili? What do you have lined up for yourself in the next while?
In these past years, I have been training and studying very much about self-development. I'm a trained hypnotherapist, I'm a trained coach, and I've been working as such up until the time I had to care for my husband. And then afterwards, I started working with people who are going through loss. I have a group that I work with, and many, many, many people relate to what happened to Dave, and they write to me, and we take it from there, and we work together. It's communication, and I'm very, very fortunate to be doing this work. I think working with people in difficult situations, working with people who are going through grief and loss, it's something that is very, very rewarding. These are moments in somebody's life, delicate moments, hard moments, difficult moments, moments when people don't know where to turn to, what to do, whose advice to follow, how to cope, how to form coping mechanisms. And I'm very privileged that I've been through that and I know how painful it is. And I myself have developed certain ways of dealing with this. And I want to help people that are not as fortunate as I was. Everybody goes through loss in a lifetime, and loss doesn't just it's not reduced only to losing a person, losing somebody in the family, going through grief has multiple forms. We're grieving the childhood that was not a good one. We're grieving for a lost job, a lost relationship, a lost house. That's grievance as well. That is grieving. We are not equipped to work or to accept loss in our lives. And unfortunately, just as winning, we have loss. It's the life is duality, isn't it? We can't be winners or we can't be winning all the time. We have to understand, we have to learn how to work with loss and how to integrate and metabolize loss in our lives. It's not easy, and our society is not preparing us for that because from a very early age, kids are encouraged to compete and to win. And the winner is pat on the shoulder and bravo, you've done it, you won. And we see the winners, we don't see the work that the winners put in, we just see the winners, and that distorts that image and makes us feel like losers and we don't know how to lose. So yeah, it's working with that and helping people understand more their strengths, their light, and how to make use of their capabilities. We all have capabilities, and we don't know how to use what we have. Many people, especially after they lose somebody in their lives, and I am sure this is a big thing because it was a big thing and it is a big thing for me. When you lose a spouse, you lose your identity. And it takes a while to find your own identity without the person that you lost. You're not part of a dynamic of duo, in a pair, in a couple. You're left and you're drifting on your own. And I understand completely how hard it is to find your ground, to find your strength, to start again. Many people choose not to start again. Many people choose to hide, reject society, to be lonely, to don't give themselves a second chance. Many people go into aggravated forms of grief. After 2, 3, 5, 10 years, they're still grieving. Don't get me wrong, there's no timeline for grieving. We can't put timing. We can't say, oh, it's 6 months now, you should be over it. No, there's nothing like that. Equally, you're losing a lot. You're losing your life. Your life is just passing you by. If in, say, 10 years' time, you're still in the same spot where you were when you first lost your loved one. Life goes on, and we are allowed to live and grieve at the same time. And this is something that I'm passionate about. This is something that I want to work with. I want us to make people enjoy their own life again. It won't be in the same way. Life is never the same after you lost your partner or your child or your parents or your best friend. Life is not the same. Life continues in a different form. And it's how you find your identity without having the person in your life. They are still here, their energy is still here, but the physical presence is not. And how you cope with that, how you integrate, how how you metabolize that part of life, the solitude. For me, it's solitude, um, loneliness, the fears, the uncertainty, the how you navigate all that. And it's only through finding inner strength. And there's nothing wrong with outsourcing. If there's help out there, yeah, take all the help that your friends, your family, your social circle gives you. But don't rely only on that. There's the strength is inside. So that's my passion. That's where I'm going. That's what I'm that's what's next for me. That's my work.
Cy King, who was the other part of the Harry Bikers, wrote a foreword in your book, and he said, "This is a book Lil needed to write."
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
did you need to write this book?
I thought this man was a big man that people needed to know about, that his light needed to shine. And who else? I was the one who kept memories, who kept adventures, who had adventures together, who gave him a family. I was the one who shared everything with him. So I was the one to know him best at his highest and lowest. We went through the best moments possible in life and through the lowest as well. Don't forget, we had a couple of years of hospitals, doctors, white coats, pills, drips, radiotherapy, chemotherapy, neuropathy, physiotherapy, you name it, we had it. A couple of very, very difficult years. Difficult for him because he was physical pain, and he was the hardest moment for him was when he lost his hair, because that was part of his identity. So after the first round of chemo, the following mornings there were clumps of hair on the pillow, and he was bereft and really upset, like too depressed. And I just said, right, let's step in. Let's do something proactive and not allow cancer to take over. I put a razor in his hand. You're shaving your head. You're taking the initiative. You're doing the first step. So it was difficult for him, but it was difficult for me, watching this person reduced from a vibrant titan to a patient on a hospital bed, to a person who couldn't walk without my help. Mind you, in these 2 years, he had the strength in an interval when he felt a little bit better to film another series, the last series. And the series was called Go West, and they were filming in different farms or interesting places that produce food on the West Coast. And I used to drive him to the set. And I have never watched that series. It's too painful for me because I know what went behind the scenes. The cycle behind the scenes was that Thursday was chemo day, so we were in hospital the whole day. Friday he was very poorly. Saturday a little bit better. On Sunday he would travel to work, film Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday travel back home to start it all again on Thursday. And he kept saying, it's not fair on you. You only have me when I'm poorly, when I'm in hospital. It's not fair on you. And he asked me when he started, when he was offered this series, are you sure that you allow me to go? And I said, you have to, because this is your life. You enjoyed doing this. You have to do it. It's your passion. I knew when they wrapped the last episode, I went to the producer and said, give him another project to look forward to. Invent something, an idea, just throw it at him, because if he has that in his head, then he's going to work on it and have his creative juices go, and that's going to help him. And they did that. They put an idea on the plate, but Dave said, my darling, I don't think I'm going to do that. I think this is the last one. And so it was. And that was really painful to watch. Painful to watch him being reduced and being a patient and not being in charge of his own life. He was always a man who was in charge, always a man with a plan, always the man who knew what he was doing. Whilst here, he gave up. And I saw that in his eyes, that he gave up. And when he gave up, yeah, things were not going well. And yeah, it was a difficult time. I was really lucky. I had my family around me. I had friends around me, beautiful friends around me. I wasn't on my own in his last weeks. So really, I couldn't be more grateful for the help that I had. That's why I'm saying, if anybody there is listening to me and is going through hard times, accept any form of help that you can get. And if you are supporting somebody who's going through a hard time, who's going through bereavement, just go and knock at the door and say, this is your pint of milk for today, or this is a loaf of bread for today. Don't just ask, can I help you? No, just go and do something practical and help, because that's what matters. Don't put a question onto somebody who already has thousands of questions in their head. Just go and help, do a small practical thing. I heard that, and it really was a life changer, a lifesaver. Yeah, I was fortunate to have these friends with me.
So, well, we're almost at the end of our show. How can we get a hold of you? How can we get a hold of the book? How can we get a hold of your hypnotherapy? Where do you have websites or where can we go to?
The book, you can find it on Amazon. The paperback version of the book is out. The book went number one on the list of Sunday Times bestsellers immediately after it came out last June. It was on the bestseller list for a few weeks. I have had thousands of messages from people who have read the book and said, yes, it's a sad thing, but it's written with so much joy, and it helped me going through my grief. Because that's what I wanted to give. I wanted to give people hope. I wanted to give people a little bit of his joy, his zest for life, and his message. Go for it. Don't stop. Just do it with all your heart. And he was always saying, when you do something, do it with all your might, with all your heart. Don't do it halfway. Dave was never a person to go halfway. He was always full way. And that was his magic, because he had craziness in him. and and that was exactly what I wanted to. The message of the book is just live your life to the fullest. Don't let it pass by. So many are denied this life, and we are here, so we have to honor it. I had a website, but I'm building a new one right now. And I have a profile on Facebook. I have a big group that's following me on Facebook and on Instagram. Type in Liliana Myers or Lili Myers, and you'll find a lot of useful things on my socials. I have been detailing my journey from the moment I lost Dave up to now. So every stage I went through, every motion I went through, every emotion and every little thing that I experienced, I documented it and I talk about it and I create these open conversations for people. I want it not to be a taboo. Death is not a taboo. Death is part of life. Talking about death, talking about loss, talking about these things that we push away from us has to be normal. We have to normalize that. We lost the literacy in death. In the past, communities were a big role in the individual's life. Whenever the individual went through something, it was a community who was supportive, who was there for help. Now we lost that. Church has lost its power or his place in society is not what it used to be in the past. So we lost the foundations that in the past helped us with coping skills, coping mechanisms, coping ways, and we have not yet replaced them with anything that's valid. And it depends on everybody's belief system, what they believe that they can help them. But I think that collectively we have lost that system that can help us. And our mind cannot create yet that. We are still trying things and not understand things correctly. We don't understand things in depth. And the more we discuss about these things, the more we understand them. The more we discuss about death, the more we understand it. It's just a phase in our life. It's not the end. Death is not the end. It's we're very scared because we don't understand it, but if we talk about it, we will understand it.
So, Lili, do you have some final words of hope for people who are maybe caregiving a sick loved one, or maybe someone who's going through the grief like you are, or someone who's afraid of death, even? What are your last words of hope for our viewers?
We can't live our lives in fear. We can't, well, we do live our lives in fear, but there's dangers everywhere. So fears, to live in fear is not to live at all. You give your powers away. Somebody else has the power, and I'm just abdicating, and somebody else or something else has to do something for me. Where's the joy? Where's the zest for life? Where's the magic of life? Where's the energy that we have? We have been given this sparkle. We have to use it. That's why we're here. We're here to amplify this flame that was given to us, to make a difference in the world, to leave this world in a better shape than we found it. This is what I think we should be focusing on and be joyful. Today I made a difference. Like today, for example, this morning, somebody sent me a message. I just lost my husband 3 weeks ago, and I'm going through this, and I'm going through this, and I'm going through this. And that I thanked that person for opening up and for having the courage to talk about it and for confiding in me. And I made that person's day a little bit better. Just by writing a few words. This is what everybody can do. Just make the world around you a little bit better. It will make you feel better when you know that you've done something for somebody else. Makes you feel worthy. There is meaning in that. It's meaningful. You're giving your energy towards something meaningful. Don't let life pass you by without doing something beautiful, without doing something useful, without feeling complete inside that you've done your job. Yes, if you're supporting somebody who is ill, who is terminally ill, I consider that to be an honor. For the joy that that man gave me so many years, it was an honor for me to be there for him. and to hold his hand. That's how I went through it. Knowing that I was making a difference for him, that I was helping him, that I was there for him when he needed. And I can't say that it was joy, because it wasn't, but it was an honor. It was an honor for me. That's how I see it. If you're going through a hard time with grief, grief is love, and it's going to stay there. In fact, it's so I read these somewhere. Grief is the other coin, the other side of the coin. On one side is love, and the other side is grief, and it's true. Grief is the receipt for love, the love that we received, the love that we give, and then we grieve when we lose it. But we don't lose it; it's still with us, still here, still here. So let's use it.
Like that medallion. The medallion that you found, right?
Yeah.
It's a medallion, it's got two sides.
It does.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Lili. It's been so lovely to have you on and to hear your words and to listen to you speak about your husband with such love, such deep love, and to give us all hope, because you're right, death is just a part of life. It's not life. It's not even the end of life. It's just that event. It's just one more event. And even though our physical bodies might not be here anymore, our energy and our presence and the good that we did in the world will always be here. It'll just be rippling, the ripple effect. So good luck with Dave Day. Have fun June 20th. That's almost the solstice. So you will have a long, long day to ride your bike. I think, Lili, that you got your bike license. Are you riding your own bike?
Oh yeah, that's another thing. So I've got the provisional license, and I'm still yet to get my full license. Between now and Dave Day, yeah, go for it, Lil. I hear his voice. Go for it, Lil.
Go for it. Go for it. Yes, do it. And thank you to all of you that tuned in today or watched or listened to us, because the book is incredible. If you haven't read it yet, Dave and Me, it's a beautiful book. It's a love letter to Dave and from Lil. And it's just got such good wisdom in it, wisdom from Lil, wisdom from Dave about how to live our lives while we still can, while we're still here on this plane. So thank you for being here. And if you haven't yet, please subscribe. It will help me to get the message of hope out. It'll help Lil to get her message of hope, the beautiful ideas that she presented in her book. And it'll help anyone else who might be going through grief now to hopefully find us when they need some inspiration and maybe need just a little bit more hope to take that one next step. So thank you, Lili Myers, and thank you to everyone else.
Thank you.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye.
This podcast and Inspired Healing Hypnotherapy do not provide medical advice. The information included here is not limited to text, graphics, images, or other material contained, and are for informational purposes only. No material in this podcast is intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment, and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen. And never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard on this site.